Hello, I'm Robert T. Smith, host of Support Your Local Podcast. I want to take a moment to remind you to hit that fast forward button. That is, unless you want to hear about something good being done. Anyone who knows me knows that I love bowling. In 2016, I founded the Smith Family Bowling Scholarship Foundation, intended to honor my father's hard work and dedication to community service and award scholarships to youth bowlers throughout the nation. To date, we've awarded well over $15,000 in scholarships. If you are a bowler, know a bowler, have ever seen a bowler, or heard about anyone who has ever seen a video of a bowler, I'd love for you to help promote the SFBSF and its mission. Please go to sfbsf.com and see what we're all about. While you're there, please consider hitting that donate button and helping us make a brighter future for our youth. Again, that's sfbsf.com. Thank you for your time.
I now declare the quick draw competition open.
Howdy, everyone. Pull up a chair, kick up your boots, and take a sip on a nice cold brew. It's The Quick and the Pod, the show on the Support Your Local Podcast Network, where we take a look at the 1995 Sam Raimi Western classic, The Quick and the Dead, one scene at a time. I am your host, as always, Robert Smith, coming to you from beautiful Tombstone. Yes, that one. Today we are going to be taking a look at Chapter 16, Herod versus Cantrell. But before we jump into that, I hear some spurs clicking out on the boardwalk. There's a shadowy figure outside the Batwing doors, and holy shit, it's Shizzy!
Hey, what's happening?
What's going on, Shiz? Last time I saw you, the federales were right on your tail.
Yep. They, I got out somehow.
Well, that's good. That's good.
You don't want to know what I had to do. We'll just
Hey, a man's got to do what a man's got to do.
What's up? How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Great to have you back. As all of you guys know from previous episodes, we have Shizzy, my lifetime buddy back from Ohio. Shizmo, we are going to take a look at. I actually said chapter 16. It's chapter 17. I'm sorry, I didn't look at my notes. Chapter 17, Cantrell versus Herod. Are you ready to get into this?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, as we always do, before we take a look at our chapter, we are going to do a quick little deep dive. It's probably not going to be so quick given the subject matter of one of our movers and shakers, one of our actors, one of our key people in regards to making this movie. Today, I specifically am giddy like a schoolgirl. You should check out how hard these nipples are. We get to talk about Sam fucking Raimi, and I get to do it with the man that introduced me to Sam Raimi in all his glory, Shizzy. This is super, super exciting. In a episode or in a segment that I like to call Put My Damn Name on the Board.
Put my damn name up.
All right. We are here for Put My Name on the Board, and today is a great one. Given the just the outrageous cast that we have in this movie, I've looked forward to a lot of these characters and a lot of these people and deep diving on those. But today is the day. Today is the greatest day of my life. I get to talk about Sam Raimi with Shizmo. Shizzy, let's jump in, buddy.
Absolutely.
All right. So obviously Sam Raimi, for those of you that don't know, he is the director of this movie. If you don't know who Sam Raimi is, I'm sure once I go through a little bit of his filmography, you'll get a little bit better understanding. You'll probably go, oh, it's that guy. Started out in film school back in 1977. He made a short little movie called It's Murder. It was his film project for his school. Got a couple of his friends together. They threw together a little bit of money, was able to make a short movie called It's Murder. Really, if you've never seen it, it is really responsible for the invention and the innovation that Sam Raimi is known for in regards to various cinematography techniques. You know, you have the It's Murder board, which is the plywood, the fake boards that he's always hitting people over the head. Usually Bruce Campbell in regards to who's getting hit over the head. But it was very much the gateway for him to be able to create what is easily one of the most iconic horror movies of all time. One of which that's very, very relevant. Not to date this podcast, we'll get into that in a second. But he is the director and creator and executive producer and writer of The Evil Dead. And I'm not talking about the one from a couple years ago. I'm talking about the granddaddy of them all, 1981's The Evil Dead, starring Bruce Campbell and his various friends.
Probably one of the greatest movies ever made. You know, I mean, especially low budget, anyways. Such a good one. And the Evil Dead you were talking about was actually 10 years ago now. The remake, quote unquote, like, which stands on its own legs. It really does. I thought it was pretty cool.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't fault that movie at all. Absolutely.
I can't believe that it was made 10 years ago, though. It doesn't. Time flies.
Well, I mean, in regards to the time frame, 1981, like, we were not born when The Evil Dead came into existence. Yes. You know, just spoiler for our ages, that's a year older than I am, and that's nuts that it's still so kind of strewn throughout the cult personality of the world. And you touched on it being one of the better low-budget movies of all time. You know, everybody harkens, and rightfully so, not knocking him, but everybody harkens on, like, the Tarantinos and the Kevin Smith making Clerks on a shoestring budget. The Evil Dead was literally made for like $3.87. You know, if you want to hear a great story on how to get a low budget movie made like that, check out Bruce Campbell's autobiography, If Chins Could Kill. I definitely highly recommend that book. I think I've mentioned it a couple times throughout the podcast, but he goes into great detail of these guys essentially sold off everything that they had, and they, for lack of a better term, they hustled a group of dentists to throw money into the pot to get this made. And they just grouped up a bunch of their college friends. They hiked it up into the woods in the cabin, and they just shot stuff. And you know, I spoke earlier about the innovation that Sam Raimi came up with. A lot of these shots and a lot of these effects and things like that, they were made out of necessity. They literally did not have the money to do them correctly, so they had to come up with ideas of, you know, nailing a camera to a board and then just chasing the actor around with that board to get the crazy swooping effects. The blood was literally just Caro syrup everywhere. That if you go to the cabin, I think that they finally tore the cabin down. But if you go to the cabin up until it got tore down, like that Caro syrup still strewn across the walls because they didn't know how to get it out, because they weren't thinking about the after effects. They just needed cheap blood and how to make it. But so The Evil Dead kind of put him a little bit on the map. 1987, he comes back with Evil Dead 2. And this is the fun fact where I get to bring Shizzy in. I spoke previously of, you are obviously my gateway into cult films and to cheap horror and things like that. Evil Dead 2 is probably the first one that you had me watch. I distinctly remember going into Hollywood Video. Yes, that used to be a thing. We would go to the Cult Classics wall, and there was Evil Dead 2 on VHS. And for the kids out there, VHS was a video cassette that we used to watch movies on before DVDs.
Please be kind to rewind.
Please be kind to rewind. For kids that are a little bit younger than that, DVDs were little discs that we had movies on before we had streaming. So we're going back a couple years. But I remember you had me watch Evil Dead 2 first, and I distinctly remember asking, why am I watching the second one first? Because the first one's right there. It's sitting right next to it on the wall. And you just kind of told me, it was like, this will get you into it. We'll watch the first one too, but we're going to start with the second one. And this was my loss of my Sam Raimi virginity in regards to this. You know, it was ridiculous. It was crazy. It was funny. The deer head laughing is still
Yeah,
one of the
yeah.
greater
When he
moments of
starts
my horror
using
history.
it, when he starts
What's
using it, it's so good. And then yeah, that the goofy looking deer head just always gets me. I love, I love that part.
So yeah, that was the movie that kind of got me started. And then we did go back and watch the first one, and ultimately Army of Darkness, that we'll talk about here in a second. But I owe Shizzy everything in regards to my Sam Raimi love, because you started me with that movie.
Yeah, I basically, to me, The Evil Dead is sort of a remake or retelling of the first one with a bigger budget, but it was more with more of a sense of humor, splat stick they called it.
Yeah.
And whereas the first one is more of a straight up horror film. There's really no comedy in it. It's made to be unsettling, and that's what I love about the first one. And the second one is definitely more fun, and it has a bigger budget, and the special effects are pretty fun. With all the small ashes running around, you could definitely tell it was superimposed, but it just gives it that like more of a surreal quality to it. That it really, because the events that are happening are insane. Yeah, definitely surreal.
Absolutely. And you say it's got a little bit bigger budget. Like, it was still a shoestring budget. I mean, he still made wonders out of what he had. But I would argue, like, if it wasn't for the addition of the comedy and kind of the all around hitting so many genres of the second one, I don't know that we would have the Sam Raimi that we have today, because the first one was a pretty, like you said, it was just a straight up horror film that could have easily fallen by the wayside with so many other 80s slashers. But it definitely, yeah, his foot in the door of Hollywood was definitely Evil Dead 2. Arguably for Bruce Campbell as well. I think that really put him on the map in regards to that as well. 1990, he gets his first kind of chance at a big movie. The often forgotten, but I not for me. Darkman. Went on to have a couple sequels he wasn't involved in, but he was the creator and the writer and the executive producer of Darkman, which was my introduction to one Mr. Liam Neeson.
Yeah, Darkman. I have all three Darkman movies on DVD somewhere around here. Yeah, the first one with Liam Neeson. It's Sam Raimi's first superhero movie, really. I mean,
Exactly.
didn't not very many people remember Darkman, really, I guess, but it was an all right movie, and it definitely has some of the hallmarks of Sam Raimi's filmmaking. Um, there's always one scene that stands out with like this, like what I was talking about, like the superimposed images. It has been so long since I've seen this. I can't remember exactly what the context. I think he's like working on the his serum or whatever it is, like he's his science projects, whatever. And then there's just these different like things floating by, but it's meant to like portray like the time going by and just like all these different things. I don't know. It was just really interesting, and it's definitely if you've seen like especially Evil Dead or like 2 and Army of Darkness, there's Darkman came out before Army of Darkness, yeah.
Yeah, actually, that was the 2 years before we get the threequel of Army of Darkness. Yeah, Darkman. I mean, coming out in 1990, you got to remember, kids, like, this is pre-Marvel. This, we didn't have superhero movies to speak of. We had, for Christ's sake, Batman '89 had just came out. So, like, we didn't even have the Burton version of a superhero movie. For him to kind of create a non-entity, this wasn't an intellectual property of Marvel. This wasn't something from DC. This is something from the creative mind of him, and to be able to make a superhero movie when superhero movies weren't really a thing. was pretty cool. But yeah, so going into 1992, as Shizzy mentioned, that's when we hit Army of Darkness. So this is when people are finally realizing, okay, this is Sam Raimi. This is what he does. This Evil Dead thing is this big cult hit. What happens if we throw a lot of money at it? And still, by a lot of money, it's still relatively small by today's terms. But like, this was the studios giving him a chance to kind of make things. But unfortunately, with more money also comes more studio involvement. So if anybody's ever walked down a DVD aisle or a movie aisle in the past 20 years, you've probably seen 18 different editions of Army of Darkness. I think, just like Mario used to come with the Nintendo, I think every time you bought a DVD player, they used to get a copy of Army of Darkness for free. There were so many different editions and copies out there. But that is to where on the spectrum of Raimi, you have complete horror in Evil Dead 1. You have the nice mix of horror and comedy in Evil Dead 2. I think they turned the dial all the way up to the comedy in regards to Army of Darkness.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then Bruce Campbell really leaning into his character, just being such a dick. He's such a dick, like in that movie. Like, but then that's, he's still endearing though as a character. For sure, you could definitely see his development through the films. He was such more of like an innocent, kind of sweet guy in the original, and then Evil Dead 2 is still kind of the same, but he had more of a personality, I guess. Right. Even though you could consider Evil Dead 2 to kind of be a remake of Evil Dead 1.
Right.
Sort of, I guess you could say. Not in the ways of like today where it's like, oh, it's not a remake, it's a reboot or whatever,
It's a requel.
So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Would you go so far as to say that in Army of Darkness, he's an ash hole?
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, he definitely leans into the slapstick and the just over the top, like zany character.
Yeah, absolutely, and really, it's as we're going through his filmography, you're seeing these building blocks kind of build up to what he's going to be getting able to do, to where we're throwing him more and more money, and he's still able to do such great practical effects on a shoestring budget. That imagine what creative things he can come up with if he actually has something to play with. And, here we go into 1995. We have the movie that we're talking about right now. We have the Quick and the Dead, which, when I tell you, hey, let's watch a Western movie, Sam Raimi's not the director that you automatically come to mind with. Like, I don't know, and truthfully, I didn't know it was a Sam Raimi movie even when I first saw it. It wasn't until years later that I discovered it. I went, oh yeah, this is 1000% a Raimi film. You see all the quick zooms and the action and the swooping and the style of the shots, and you go, this is 1000% a Sam Raimi movie. But when I was first watching it, I don't know that I could have identified that.
Oh no, I think I may have even watched The Quick and the Dead before I even discovered The Evil Dead. Because I do remember, let's see, 95, I was like 12.
Right.
And I think I discovered Evil Dead a little bit later. But I do remember The Quick and the Dead on pay-per-view as one thing the kids probably don't know about. But even though, well, you probably do, because there's like, you can, on Amazon, you can
rent streaming. Yeah. That's, if anything, that's the one holdover.
Hey, yeah, you had to like, didn't you have to like, yeah, we didn't have computers, so you had to call like a 1-800 number and order a movie from cable. But yeah, I do remember watching The Quick and the Dead. This, my dad is a fan of westerns, and I remember watching it when I was young. Like, when a movie would come out, it would be in theaters for a while, and then after the theatrical release, it would be on, VHS and pay-per-view. That's when I saw it first. I was on pay-per-view, and of course, I didn't know anything about Sam Raimi, like you said. And then years later, I revisited. I'm like, oh yeah, totally. Um, it's definitely got the hallmarks of his filmmaking style.
Right. Yeah, it's dripping Raimi, definitely. So 98. Okay.
No, sorry, never mind. That was dumb. You can
Come on. Do it.
No, I was just saying. I was wondering what that was dripping.
Nice. With Raimi, you never know. It's some sort of viscous liquid. You never know.
Yes.
98, we have A Simple Plan. 99 for Love of the Game. 2000, we have The Gift, and then what most people like. So we're
Did
kind
you
of
gloss over A Simple Plan though?
I did. I was hoping you wouldn't stop me on that one. I have never seen A Simple Plan. I have an admission.
Greatest actors of any generation, Bill Paxton. No, you know how we used to sing the praises of Bill Paxton.
I do hold Bill Paxton dear to my heart. He's
Game over, man. You got to watch
the
Simple Plan. I thought it's an effective neo-noirish crime movie. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I've seen it a few times, and I really like it. And I was actually thinking about this movie recently, and I'm like, I've gotta watch that one again. So yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm glad we
There
heard
you
it.
go. It's with the endorsement of Shizzy. If it has Bill Paxton, I have to say I shamefully I have never seen it. I will remedy that as soon as I possibly can. But it was all it was all to get.
And Bridget Fonda in it too.
Oh, if it's got Bridget Fonda, I'll definitely check it out.
Yes, and Billy Bob Thornton. So yeah, definitely give that one a look.
I will give it a looky loo, but again, it was all to speed up to get to the main event. The reason that us non snob movie type people or ones that know the obscure horror references, the one that most people are going to know Sam Raimi for, and they don't know who Sam Raimi is obviously for the movie, but they're going to know the movie, the original Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire. We're talking 2002. This was arguably the boom of the superhero movies. We had Blade at that point, which kind of put them on the map. But like when you're talking the 1989 Batman, this is probably the follow up. Arguably, this is the next big spike in what really kind of sent us all hurtling into superhero madness. I mean, they had Nickelback as the lead song, for Christ's sakes. How can you top having Chad Kroeger singing "We Have a Hero Amongst Us"?
That was him and the dude from Saliva.
Yes, it was. I forgot that part.
They did the duet. Yeah, that song was huge. 2000.
And I sadly know that I was working at Walmart in 2002 because we had that damn DVD playing in electronics on loop. And for those that remember the DVD, that song is the opening, is the loop song. So I would sit there and stock the paper goods, which was on the very next aisle, and have that earworm in my head for hours at a time. But it's
something about the wings of an eagle.
Yeah. But he's a spider, man.
He's a spider. I don't get it.
It's not an eagle.
But this is definitely like the epitome of, hey, this guy can do some really cool graphics and some really cool visuals and even some practical effects. Let's throw him a lot of money and see what he can do with this, which, not taking the bona fides away from Sam Raimi. He was a huge comic book nerd. He was very integral in this even happening. But this was definitely kind of his, I think his kind of peak. Was Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, and just by association, Spider-Man 3. The less we say about that, the better probably. But let us remember the good times. Let us remember the Tobey Maguires of 1 and 2.
Now, I was just, not to interrupt, but
No, please.
I've just noticed that it was the first film to reach $100 million in a single weekend.
Yes.
Based on a comic book, I think.
Yes. Yeah, it is literally the beginning of the comic book boom. It was
Thanks, Sam
ridiculous.
Raimi. No. Thanks for all these crappy Marvel films. No, it's not his fault, but
Yeah, he couldn't possibly know that we would get fatigue from that.
Marvel being the behemoth that it is at the box office now, he definitely was integral to the beginnings of that.
Yep, and it'll come all back full circle here shortly. 2009, Drag Me to Hell, underrated. I think that is, for a PG-13 movie. I think that Raimi does some really, really cool stuff. I would argue probably as close to his original Evil Dead roots as he's been.
Yeah, I watched that movie not too long ago because I saw it when it came out, like, well, shortly after it came out, and then I thought it was fine, and then I watched it again, get a fresh look at it, and yeah, I mean, it still holds up. It's pretty good, like you said, it is PG-13, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
This was during the boom of like your Sinisters and your Babadooks and things like that, where they were doing the PG-13 to get more people in the theaters, and you get left wanting for more because, God damn it, it's Sam Raimi. He can do more, but yeah, for those restraints, I think he pushed it as far as he could probably go.
Oh yeah, and some of the PG-13 films of the time were actually kind of good. Like some of them, they were kind of creepy, kind of scary.
Mm-hmm.
They could push the envelope a little bit, showing some gross out gags and things like that, but without the violence or even the strangeness of like the Evil Dead movies.
Right.
But yeah, that was so pretty entertaining, pretty horror light, but still effective. I thought it was a pretty good movie.
Absolutely. 2013, we won't talk much about Oz the Great and Powerful.
I never saw that.
I have. It's not good. Yeah, it's not good. It is the flip side of the coin in regards to what happens if you give Sam Raimi a budget. When he goes full CGI, it's not always good. But in the interims of that, we have him still being kind of pulled into his old roots. So we have obviously 2013 the Evil Dead remake, as you said, that's 10 years old. That is just ridiculous. But he's a part of, he's producing The Grudge. He's producing Boogeyman. He's producing 30 Days of Night. He's still involved very much in the remake of Poltergeist. He's still very much involved in the genre that gave him his career, essentially. But really kind of takes a step back on directing. And I think, Spider-Man 3, for as much time and effort and energy as those big superhero projects, CGI heavy projects are, it takes a lot out of your directors. And I think with it not being as successful as it could have been, and then he tries to do Drag Me to Hell, which wasn't very, it was a good movie. Again, it made its money back. It wasn't very successful. And then just getting kind of lambasted with Oz the Great and Powerful, brother took a step back and just said, you know what, I have fuck you money. I'll let other people make the shit that I want to make and just sit back and enjoy it, you know?
Yeah, the things that he produced as well. Him and is it Robert Tappert? They had
Robert Tappert, yep.
their production company was pretty successful as far as television work. Executive producers, you know, like Xena, Warrior Princess. Remember Mantis?
Yep, Mantis. Yep.
Yes, that was a pretty short-lived show from like the mid '90s. But yeah, so he definitely had fuck you money and good investments and things of that nature.
Yep. He didn't have to keep slumming it like poor Bruce, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the one that, you know, for the young kids that still don't know what the hell a Sam Raimi is, Sam Raimi is obviously the one that just last year he made Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So coming full circle with his comic book roots, he finally gets sucked into the Marvel machine and tries to create you know, as good a movie as he can given those parameters. You know, obviously Marvel movies are very, very formulaic. There's a lot of oversight in regards to the studio. You know, they're very, very protective of their IPs. So there's only so much that you can do. But for as much hate as I saw for a lot of people in regards to that movie, I dug the hell out of that movie. I did not particularly care for Doctor Strange 1. I actually prefer this one.
That's probably one of the only Marvel films I actually enjoyed. I don't really watch Marvel films, but I liked Doctor Strange. I haven't seen the Multiverse of Madness yet, but people that I've talked to said it was pretty good.
You have to check if you're a Raimi head, you have to check it out.
Yeah, for sure. I've been meaning to. Don't get me wrong, but I just haven't gotten to yet.
Yeah. See, for a simple plan, I'll trade you Multiverse of Madness. So, a spoiler, not to spoil a movie that's already 8 movies behind the curve. You know, Scarlet Witch is the big bad in this movie, and anybody knows me knows I love me some Elizabeth Olsen. I can watch that all day, sir. Shout out to powerful Elizabeth Olsen. She scared the shit out of me in this. You give her some Raiminess to do and a little bit of blood dripping down her face, and she can be an Evil Dead character. Like this movie is definitely Raimi. You still have a lot of the classic techniques, and it's kind of his return to form of like being able to show action and to show movement and keep enough things physical in regards to actually doing the shot, or as opposed to being stuck in the CGI, but being able to augment it with CGI just makes it that much greater. So yeah, if you've not watched Multiverse of Madness and you're a Raimi head, you definitely got to check it out because there's going to be a lot of stuff that you're going to sink your teeth into. Definitely.
Awesome. Duly noted.
Duly noted. Oh, why am I blanking on the word? What is the word? Practical. Practical. I was like, it starts with a P. So practical effects, things that he's actually shooting in camera as opposed to CGI. I don't know why I blanked on that. But anyways, all right. And so that's pretty much where we're at with Sam Raimi. So very, very long career, very, very successful career. As we established, the man has fuck you money. And he's been able to do what he loves his entire life. Again, check out Bruce Campbell's book, If Chins Could Kill. You know, he has literally been paid $1 billion to make movies with his friends and to occasionally beat the crap out of Bruce Campbell on screen just because he can. Who doesn't want to do that?
I don't know if we didn't really talk about, but the Ash versus Evil Dead series.
Absolutely.
He directed at least one episode. That was such a fun show. It's just a shame that it got canceled after 3 seasons.
Right.
But yeah, that is such an over the top, just classic horror television show. I love that show. It was so good.
And it just goes to show, like, like we said, 1981. We're talking 42 years ago. He made Evil Dead. It's still here today. Evil Dead Rise, and again, not to date this podcast, Evil Dead Rise just released like 2 weeks ago. It's still a hot intellectual property that just keeps going and going and going, even without his direct involvement.
It's done pretty well at the box office too, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. For a mid spring horror movie, it's doing very well. It's kicking the Pope's Exorcist ass, I hope. And it did run into the juggernaut of the Mario movie, but other than that, it's doing pretty good for an Evil Dead movie.
Yeah, I'm actually reading about its debut, finished second behind Super Mario Brothers.
Mm-hmm. Powerful Mario.
Yeah. But yeah, so I can't wait to see that actually. Yeah, it's still in the theaters, right?
Yes. Yep. I'm getting ready to go this weekend and check it out. Hopefully, I've heard mixed bags. I listened to a lot of movie review podcasts. In fact, I is one, but it's getting some mixed bags on it. But for the most part, I can tell like it's the people that are ragging on it aren't really Evil Dead fans per se. It's not. They're not seeing it for what it is.
Yeah, neckbeards. Move out of your mom's basement. Stupid critics. No, I'm probably going to go see it this week. As a matter of fact, now I think about it.
Yeah, so that was our deep dive. I told you it wouldn't be brief. Our deep dive into Sam Raimi, our director of this movie. If you've not already, please take our advice and check out some of these movies that we talked about. You'll definitely see Raimi strewn throughout the screen. He's splattering his seed all over the seed. That's what's dripping. But it reeks of Raiminess. But this has been, as always, put my damn name up on the board.
Add my name to the list.
Attaboy! All right, and we're back. Shizzy, great talk about Mr. Sam Raimi. What do you say we talk about some of the best Raimi shots in the movie in our upcoming chapter 17, Cantrell versus Herod?
Yes, I feel like we could have made an entire podcast just talking about Sam Raimi and his films and television shows. I want to throw one more at you. The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr.
For Bruce Campbell. That was actually my introduction to Bruce Campbell. As you said, you had this before The Evil Dead. That's where I knew Bruce Campbell from, was Briscoe County Jr. I actually dug that show when I was a kid. But
I loved that show. That was a good one. I think I read an article recently where that they were talking about doing a reboot of Briscoe County Jr.
Briscoe County the Third,
with like, the two main characters like sons meet up or something. I don't know. It might have just been Bruce Campbell talking shit, but they might have actually been throwing the idea around. But I think that would be cool.
Oh, absolutely.
But anyways,
we're ready for that.
We're done. We're done with that segment. We're supposed to move on to the next segment.
My producers tell me we have to move on. Shizmo, my very first line on the script for this chapter is, we start our chapter, and I'm excited about this one because it may be the Raimiest Raimi to ever Raimi on this film. And boy, does it live up to it. We start off with Herod and Cantrell. They're both waiting on the clock to strike for their duel. And so get back up on my high horse. Let's see if they wait for the clicking of the clock.
Yeah, the thing you've been harping on, where it's like nobody wait, because Pat Hingle, did he say when it chimes, does the word chime come out of his mouth?
I believe so. While you're talking, I will pull out the script. Go ahead.
I'd have to go back, but so every time there's a the showdown where the clock ticks, boom, and then they shoot.
Wait, did you just say click, click, boom?
No, it ticks, and then
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But yeah, I should have, because that would have been the second saliva reference randomly. Good old early 2000s rock, man. But so yeah, they I'm sorry, I kind of lost my.
sorry, that was on me.
But it never actually chimes, you know. It clicks because you hear the little and then the crunk, and then you fire. So, I mean, if everybody was taking, if Pat Hingle did indeed say that you do it on the chime, well, what if everybody, actually heeded that advice and was waiting for the chime, and it never actually chimes? So everybody's just standing around, for like 5 minutes, and like, well, then everybody just starts shuffling away. They get bored.
Just slow. Does everybody look at their watches? Doop doop doo. Oh, I guess I got some chores to do.
Minute now, man. But
I do have a judge's ruling. Here we are. I have the script right here in front of me, and it does say. Let's see. I walked away and then I lost it. It was right there. Here we go. So Herod asks what the odds on the kid, and this says 3-1, which I know for a fact the person in the movie says tres to uno. So I'm already doubting the validity of this script. However, gentlemen, remember, you must not draw until that clock, and I'm pointing to a fictional clock, makes the first chime of the hour.
So technically,
they should all be shot and killed because they're all disqualified.
We wouldn't even have a movie.
Everybody dies.
Yep, that's the end of the podcast, folks. Everybody dies. Hope you enjoyed.
Except for Pat Hingle. He's the one that just kills everybody because he's the vengeful spirit. I said one chime.
And then he becomes a commissioner in Gotham City.
I'm just saying. Gotham City. Oh, yeah. All right. So, yeah, that City Redemption. But, all right, we're just being silly. So, they're a full minute ahead of schedule in their prepping because we get to see that the clock strikes at 1 till. And, just throwing this out there, maybe Sharon Stone could take some notes on how the professionals handle things, because every time that she's getting ready to go to battle, it seems like she's coming through the Batwing doors and like going through the crowd with like 5 seconds to spare. Like, I'm just waiting for the time where she has to battle somebody and she doesn't make it out quite in time. So they just shoot into the crowd at her and end up winning somebody. But
yeah, I did notice that. Yeah, she's always just like, they like close up on her face and she's like looking slightly confused, like she just woke up or something. She goes, or maybe she
literally did just wake up.
She had a few too many drinks in the saloon. It's like, oh, what time is it? But
it's time. It's Vader time. So speaking of Stone, she looks around at the crowd of townspeople, and you see that a lot of them are actually praying. And for what, you may ask? We get to see that it's a nod back to the when Sharon Stone was first getting to the hotel. She kicked open the one door that was kind of propped open, and she sees Cantrell with a group of people, and that's all going to start to come to light as we go throughout this chapter of what exactly was going on there, because we find that the townsfolk were actually paying Cantrell. That's what the lady holding the candelabra and everything was he is he is the hired hand that they had to take out Herod. Unfortunately for them, however, the clock does strike. It does not chime, but we do hear the click, click, boom. And both men do simultaneously fire, and it is the closest draw that we see so far. We see a red mist coming off of Cantrell as a sad violin starts to play. And nothing gets me worse than a sad violin. I don't like when violins are sad. Cantrell's holding his stomach at the bullet wound, and he begins to fall down to his knees. And there's a noticeable silence over the crowd. And there's actually a great shot here. You know, speaking of Raimi and his cinema photographer. Why do I keep using that word if I don't know how to say it? Cinema photographer. Hey, the picture guy. Sam Raimi and the picture guy. They pan around Hackman's head to get a great shot of the crowd and everybody's reaction of what's going on.
Oh yeah, revisiting the scene today. I'm like, yeah, that one struck me. I like that camera work, and I like when it first starts out, that really long shot of them standing there, and then when Gene Hackman shoots my dude Keith David, and that's shot. Yeah, that's definitely one of the greatest actors of all time. That shot too, where you see that like pinkish reddish mist when he gets winged in the torso, and then just that camera kind of swing around Gene Hackman's head there is really excellent. I like that. Just like it's subtle, but it's brilliant in a way. I really like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to see another pairing of Sam Raimi and Dante Spinotti, the cinematographer, or whatever that word is. Yes, and the Cinnamon Toast Crunch guy. And so Herod claims that he's confused that if they had enough money to buy a gunfighter, perhaps he's not charging them enough in taxes. And
what a great sorry to interrupt you, but what a great monologue by Gene Hackman. Yeah, just watch it. You know what I mean? He's just really good at just commanding the screen, and everybody's just like, you know, he's like, you guys are all basically just bitching about how my taxes are too much and all that, but you can scrape them enough money to hire a professional gunfighter in Cantrell.
Yeah, absolutely. If there was ever any doubt that he was the heel, it's alleviated with this. He has a chokehold on these townsfolk, and you can see not just the sorrow of the plan not working, but just like you can see the wheels turning in their heads of, oh shit, what do we do now? Because if we thought it was bad before, oh shit, this did not end well. As he pontificates, as you said, Cantrell does make his way back up to his knees, but before he can pull his gun, Herod does this great spin and shoots the pistol out of his hand, and then just goes right back into his rant. And he's essentially proclaiming, like you said, he's proclaiming himself God of the town. You know, he's the one that allows whoever to live and whoever to die.
What's so nuts about when he does shoot his pistol, it's like it's hung on his belt, and when he shoots it, it spins. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what? That's just a nice little flourish, a nice little touch there.
Yeah, I'm no gunfighter. I'm no gunsmith. I don't know what kind of rig would cause that, but he used it to his advantage in the first fight to be able to just draw from his hip. He just kind of wheeled it that way. But to see that it's completely on the gimbal, that's a nice touch.
Is it just like it just swivels at the hip, like he doesn't have to bring it out? He just.
Mm-hmm. You can just and shoot from the hip. Yeah.
Yeah, it just like spins up from being parallel with his legs, and he just goes up. Is that what that mechanism is?
That's how I take it. Like I said, that you don't see it in full effect when he first does the shot. He just kind of swings it at his hip, but seeing it spin from there, yeah, essentially it's just some sort of rig that keeps it there, which you'd have to wonder if he ever does have to actually draw the gun, what kind of drag and what kind of time that's going to take off of it. But to be able to just kind of do it without clearing leather and all that, maybe, I mean, again, I'm not a gunfire. Maybe that is a faster way. I know when we see Russell Crowe do his drawing, his is essentially right there at the hip. He doesn't actually draw it and pull it up like Hackman and the rest of them do. It's just a shot from the hip.
Or it could have just been for effect.
Or it could just be a cool effect, and Sam Raimi thought it was cool. Yeah, that's true. That's fair.
It is pretty fucking cool.
He continues his rant again, just kind of proclaiming himself god of the town, and he spins again and shoots Cantrell right through the head. And by right through, I mean he creates a 4-inch hole that we can actually see through.
And you can see Gene Hackman standing there
Yes.
through the hole in his head.
So I mean, when I said that this was the Raimiest Raimi to ever Raimi, that shot is exactly what I'm talking about. There's just enough gore, just enough viscera, but just the coolness of being able to see through the head, and as you said, seeing where the bullet came from. It came from Gene Hackman, right there. He's right there. And it's kind of a recurring motif throughout the movie. So we saw the sunlight going through the bullet hole in Sharon Stone's hat at the beginning of the movie with Tobin Bell, and this is just kind of taking that up to 11 to go full spinal tap, and it's interesting that we'll actually see the sunlight through the pinprick hole a couple more times throughout this movie, but once he's gone full Raimi with this viscera and this gore from this head, I don't know that he could one-up it, so it's nice to go back down from there. But this is most definitely the pinnacle in regards to Raimi in this movie.
Yeah, that was definitely a pretty much a shocking moment. Nobody's really expecting that. And for more of a mainstream audience, I suppose, I noticed there was a lack of actual like splatter and all that, because if you showed all that, it would definitely be the MPAA would have something to say about that. Yes. But to kind of make it more. Definitely a shocking scene. Definitely great. What am I even trying to get at? I mean, I guess the lack of gore, as you would expect from like Sam Raimi, but this is more of a mainstream or an attempt at a mainstream film. So you can't go with the excess of like The Evil Dead.
Right. Well, for people like us, like we're expecting that over the top, buckets of blood and all that stuff because we've seen so much. But like, if you're just a casual fan checking out this Western, like this is pretty gruesome. That's
gnarly. It's still pretty gnarly because you're not really expecting that, for sure.
And I like too because he falls kind of what's left on his face, and we get the camera panning around Hackman once again, and I noticed that it's opposite the direction that he spun himself around to fire, and so it makes for this lot of movement, and of course like that's what Sam Raimi's known for. He's known for like his camera is never static. He doesn't keep the camera in one place for more than like 2.5 seconds, so by doing this kind of cross-directional thing, he's just creating even more action, even more movement and keeping things going with the movie. It was just a nice little touch.
It keeps, yeah, his movies have a sense of movement. It keeps it, they feel alive, for sure.
It's a thrill ride, if you will.
Indeed.
Indeed. And Herod proclaims that the gunfighter is dead and that's old news. Essentially just kind of putting the nail in the coffin for the townsfolk of like, we're going back to normal. This is my town. Get over it.
Yeah, I love that. He's like, your gunfighter's dead. Old news. And then walks back into the tavern with his dudes behind him.
And one thing I noticed, I like the little strut that he does as he's walking back towards the house. But did you also notice that he also struggles to put his gun back in his holster? He tries like 3 times. He can't find the hole. And I just found it very cool. Like like in a perfect world, they would redo that take. But to add that little level of humanity and keeping it in there, like, was Gene Hackman's take on this just so awesome that they didn't dare try to redo it? But it was just a nice little touch. Like, here's this guy, he's just blowharded himself to God level, and yet walking away, he stumbles.
Yeah, I think that, and as I was watching it, I was like, I was wondering if he really feels like he's about to lose it, like, for real. Like, because there's the subtle nuances in Gene Hackman's face and his that monologue there. I could see that there was still a little bit of like, maybe he's just so upset and just about to lose it, but he's keeping his cool as best he can in front of all these people,
Right.
Because if he shows any overt weakness, because it's obviously these people are afraid of him, because he rules the town with an iron fist. And I just think something about that performance in that scene, kind of gives away that he is on the verge of losing it.
And there's a chink in that armor.
Out in pure anger, but he's trying to keep his cool as much as possible.
Right. No, absolutely. I absolutely agree. It is a nice little character development. Let's be honest. I mean, he knew he could take Ace Hanlon. I don't think he had any doubt in his mind that he could do that. He did that pretty cockily and or penisy if you're the Family Guy version. Don't get penisy. But like I said at the beginning of the chapter, like, they drew simultaneously. Like, until you saw the spurt of blood, I don't know that you could tell that he necessarily beat him by a mile. So is he on edge of like, oh crap, we're getting later in this tournament and there's actually people that are close to being able to beat me. So yeah, I definitely agree with that character development.
He aimed for the side that his gun was on. So he might have got him just that split second and winged him enough to where he veered off. His shot, Cantrell's shot, may have veered off. So he may have just realized he got really lucky at that point, and the nerves and everything, and the adrenaline, and he's trying to keep it cool, without freaking out completely.
Right. Yep, and we'll definitely see in later chapters, spoilers, the continuation of that kind of deterioration and him actually showing nerves, to the point that he even admits it to Russell Crowe later on. That he actually feels the adrenaline, which maybe that's his kick. But yeah, definitely, I feel you on the whole breaking down a character. I think it's just a wonderful character development touch for this silly Sam Raimi Western that everybody just thinks is a comic book.
Yeah. Speaking of Ace, Ace Hanlon, right?
Mm-hmm.
It turns out Ace was really a joker.
Wow.
Hey,
Well, I'm not going to be able to top that, so let's end our chapter. But yeah, that is the end of our chapter. So I wonder again what kind is coming up. We will find out when we return for chapter 18, Scars versus Kid. But until then, Shizmo, dude, every time that we get to meet up, I love being able to talk with you. I love being able to shoot the shit with you. But I especially love talking movies with you. So thank you very much for returning. What kind of stuff do you have on your agenda? You got some music, some what other stuff going on? What's going on in the Shizmo life?
um, nothing really much. Let me check my calendar because I know I know I've got a couple concerts that I'm going to coming up, but I think we just a couple weeks ago I played a show in Columbus with my friend's band, the Brad Allen Jones band. Shout out to them; they're a great blues band. And they invited me along to do some acoustic to open up, and then do a couple of short sets in between their sets because it was a 4-hour gig that they'd booked.
Oh, geez.
But yeah, whenever they get a gig by themselves, they'll have me come along and do some acoustic stuff. So we did that a
Nice.
couple of weeks ago, as of this recording, and then last week we played a show with our friends from Columbus here in Lima. Did that this past Friday, and that's always a fun time. Henotis from Columbus, great dudes. Always have a blast when they come through. And as of now, we don't really have any gigs lined up yet, but I know. I think we got a party in a couple of weeks to play, and then there might be another birthday party the week after that, but nothing is set in stone yet.
Nice. Well, you're getting up into festival season. You're getting up into the springtime and summertime. I'm sure you'll go on those. Anytime that you're in the Lima area, or as he's expounded into even the Columbus area, definitely check out Shizzy. His band, Murder Cabin, all the ones that we mentioned, Headness and all those will be down in the show notes. Definitely check them out whenever you get a chance. Or just stop out to the firehouse. I'm sure you'll run into Shizzy there at some point. But definitely, if you hear of those bands playing in your area, go check them out. I can personally attest that you're going to have a great time. There's going to be a lot of fun in regards to those. So, Shizzy, once again, brother, thank you. Hopefully, we can have you on back for a later episode. We're past the halfway point. We're getting into the home stretch. The tournament's just starting to get really interesting. So hopefully, we can get you back here soon to kind of finish those up. But until we meet again, folks, if you haven't already, please check us out on our social medias. We are Support Your Local Podcast at Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feedback, show ideas, things like that, hit me up at SUPP, your local podcast at gmail.com. As always, if you have not already, please, whatever podcatcher that you're listening to, go on their review system, hit that review, give us the 5 stars. If it's not 5 stars, it doesn't really count for anything. So if you hate the show, give me 5 stars. Tell me why you hate it. If you love the show, give me 5 stars and tell me why you love it. Anybody in between, just give me the 5 stars. So that's how we work those. But as always, I love you guys. Hopefully we'll talk again very, very soon. But always support your local podcast.
Bye bye.